So in this video, we are going to discuss about the authentication, which is related with the certificate based. Whenever we talk about certificate, it is the digital certificate, and it is very much emerging authentication mechanism, which utilizes digital certificates for the authentication purpose. Now, this authentication scheme is based on, as told, that based on the digital certificate of the user, and this digital certificate is of certain standard which specifies the operation of this particular mechanism, and the client are required to possess the digital certificate in order to perform any kind of digital transaction. Now, this digital certificate can be reused for the user authentication or as well. In fact, whenever we are using SSL, sockets secure layer, the server always or must have the digital certificate, whereas the clients may or may not have the digital certificate, because the client authentication is optional in SSL, but server authentication is not so. So this certificate-based authentication is a stronger authentication mechanism as compared to the password-based authentication, because the user is expected to have something, that is the certificate, as well as they should know something, that is the password or the PIN code by which they can open the certificate. As previously in the previous videos, we have already discussed about the different factors of authentication: 1 factor, 2 factor, 3 factor. So out of this, the certificate base is going to be a 2-factor authentication mechanism. So whenever it is the time of a login, the user is requested to send the certificate to the server on a network whenever it is going to have a login request. And the copy of the certificate exists on the server itself, which can be verified that the certificate which has been received from the user is valid or not. So how this authentication works. The first phase or the first step is the creation, storage, and the distribution of the digital certificate, which is being done by the certification authority. So this is the prerequisite step actually for the certificate-based authentication. The digital certificates are created by the certification authority for individual users, and the certificates are being sent to the respective user, and a copy of the certificate is stored by the server in the database in order to verify the certificate during the user certificate-based authentication. So the second one is the login request. During a login request, the user is going to send its user ID to the server. In the step number 3, server is going to create a random challenge. Now this server is going to employ a technique by which it is whenever it is going to receive the user ID, it is going to validate it whenever it is going to check the user by the user authentication program in the user database whether this ID is valid or not. Once it receives that ID is valid, then the server is going to create a random challenge by activating or triggering the random challenge creation program, which generates a random number which is called the random challenge and serve it to the server. And once the server had received from the random challenge creation program the random challenge it has been received, the server is going to send this random challenge value to the client. Now the fourth step is to sign this random challenge. This random challenge, whenever it is sent by the server and it is being received by the client, the user has to now sign this random challenge with its private key. And this private key is available in its digital certificate. So for that, what it has to do, it has to access its private key from the certificate. And for accessing the private key, it requires a password by which it can open its own digital certificate to get the private key. So once it is being done on the client side and it receives its private key, this private key is very important and it has to be kept by the client itself, and it has not to disclose it to anybody else. So once it gets its private key, it is going to encrypt this random challenge value with its private key. And after the encryption of the random challenge, whatever is used to get at the client side, that is called the user's digital signature. Now the user's computer sends this digital signature to the server as a part of the login request. So in the step number 4, the random challenge which is being received is being encrypted by its private key. Private key is available in its digital certificate. So seeking the private key from its digital certificate, it is going to encrypt and receive a certain value, encrypted value of the random challenge, and this random challenge value, which is known as the user's digital signature, is being sent to the server. Now once this server is going to receive this this encrypted random challenge value with its private key, with the user's private key, what is it is going to do? The server has received the ID, so it will try to validate this ID first, and related to that ID, the public key of that related to this ID will be stored in the user database, because it will be the public key by which it can be decrypting the user's digital signature. Because we know that in public private key architecture, the private key is used for encryption purpose and the public key, corresponding public key, is used for the decryption purpose. So the server, the first requirement of the server is to get the public key of the user from which it has received the information. Once it is being done, it will activate its decryption program. Decryption of what? The user's digital signature which it has received. Now it will be a decryption process with its public key to get a particular value, and the value is nothing, it is the random challenge. Since the server is already having a random challenge value which it has sent to the client, and it is already decrypting the random challenge value which is encrypted and sent by the client, if both are going to match, it is going to give the information to the server after the comparison that it is successful. And once it receives the successful, the server is going to give the login successful information to the client. So in this way, the digital certificate authentication is being done, is being executed. Now, nowadays, the more very useful and the very popular nowadays, the biometric authentication, which is going to give you the third factor of the authentication, that who you are. Something you have in the form of a card, something you know in the form of a PIN or the password, and something you are, that is you yourself. So this biometric authentication mechanisms are receiving a lot of attention nowadays, and the biometric device is used to store the human characteristic information, either in the form of a fingerprint, or in the form of a voice, or in the form of a iris lines of the eyes. And the user database contains the samples of these biometric characteristics, and during the authentication, the user is required to provide another sample of the user's biometric characteristic, and that is being matched with the one which is available in its database. And if the two samples are same, the user is considered to be the valid one, otherwise not a valid one. Now, the important idea related with the biometrics is that sample which is produced during every authentication process may vary slightly, because at a particular moment of time, suppose if the fingerprint is being taken as the sample, so it may be possible that after a few days it is going to mismatch the fingerprints, because the samples which are available with the development, the lines of the human being on its finger is going to change, because the physical characteristics of the user may change, and this can be done. This can happen by certain number of reasons. The fingerprint is being captured, and the authentication is done every time. So the sample which is taken for the authentication may not be same, because it may be possible the finger may be dirty, finger will be having cuts, it may be other marks on the finger, and so on. So what we used to do for exact match of the sample need to be required. So for that, instead of taking one sample, we take many samples, and if one of the sample is going to match, we allow the user. So that is all about the biometric authentication. Now the Kerberos. This Kerberos is a basis of the protocol. It is because it is a kind of authentication protocol which has been named as Kerberos. Kerberos is an Italian word, Greek word, which means in the Greek mythology, Kerberos are said to be the three-headed dog for the security purpose. And the basis of this Kerberos is the protocol, which is known as Needham-Schroeder protocol. And based on that, this Kerberos protocol has been developed for the authentication purpose. Now, the beauty of this protocol is to use only single sign-on, and it is short form, it is known as SSO. For example, what is the meaning of single sign-on? Suppose you want to go to enter into an exhibition. There is an exhibition, and there are a lot of stalls are there, a lot of exhibitors are there. Everybody is having different kinds of shows which are going on in the exhibition. So single sign-on means that whenever you want to enter into an exhibition, you have to get the ticket, because ticket will be the valid authentication that you are a valid person to enter into the exhibition. Once you enter into the exhibition, now the exhibition is open for you. Whether you want to go for the dance show, you want to go for the magic show, you want to go for a cycling show, or any other show. So for every show which you want to see, you have to go and take the ticket. For that particular purpose, you are not to come back out of the exhibition and then you have to issue another ticket. It is not so. So that is called single sign-on process, in which once you get the ticket, you will enter into the system. And whenever in the system you have to use different services which are available in this exhibition, you have to again ask for the tickets. If you want to see the dance show, you have to ask for another ticket which is related with the dance show. So every user needs only one user ID for the multiple application of the resources, and Kerberos take care of the access of the multiple resources as the user is going to log on. So only once you have to log on, you have to prove your authentication, and then once you enter for the different servers, you need different tickets. So in Kerberos, how does it work? We have 4 parties which are involved in the Kerberos protocol. The first one is the client workstation, known as ELIS. Second one is the authentication server, that is going to verify or authenticate the user during the login process. Third one is the ticket granting server, that is TGS, which is issuing the ticket to certify the proof of identity. And the BOB is the server offering services to the client. So meaning thereby, ELIS is the workstation. If I am comparing it with the exhibition, so ELIS is the workstation. Suppose I am a exhibitor. I am a person who want to see the exhibition. So I will be working as a client. So I will be going to the authentication server, means I will be going on the counter of the exhibition and ask for the ticket. Once it gives the ticket, I will be authenticated to visit the different stalls. Once I will enter into that, then we have to go to another window asking for the issuing the ticket for the proof of identity. Suppose I want to see the magic show. So I want to go to the magic show counter and ask for the ticket. Once it issues the ticket, then only I will be authenticated to see the magic show. So in this way, this Kerberos protocol used to work. So we have 4 different ELIS, authentication server, ticket granting server, and the server itself which is offering its services to the client, that is BOB. So the first part of the Kerberos says that the client workstation is going to send a login request to the authentication server. So what happens whenever it is going to make a request to the authentication server? So in response of receiving the authentication server is going to perform several actions. because ID request has been sent by the client. It first creates a package. It is going to first create a package of the username Alice and a randomly generated session key, that is KS. And it is going to encrypt this particular packet, which is containing ID of Alice and the session key. It encrypts the packet by the symmetric key, and that symmetric key is shared in between the authentication server and the ticket granting server. There is another server, ticket granting server. So the shared symmetric key, which is sharing in between the authentication server and the ticket granting server, with that particular key, this information is being encrypted. And after encrypting this information will become ticket granting ticket, TGT. Now again, AS again takes this session key alone and make a packet of the session key with the ticket granting ticket. And now this KS and the TGT is being encrypted by Alice password, some symmetric key derived from the Alice password. Alice जो client है उसके password से derive करके हम इसको encrypt करेंगे, and whatever is the output we receive. Now this output contains what? TGT KS, which is encrypted with the symmetric key which is derived from the Alice password. Alice के password से derive करके this symmetric key has been generated, and with that it is encrypted and the output is received. After this message is received, the Alice workstation asks for the password. Now, Alice workstation asks her for the password. When Alice enters into the workstation, it generates the KA, that is the symmetric key, which is derived from the password, and as well as ticket granting ticket. So what it will do, when this output will be sent to the Alice, what Alice will do, Alice will derive the from its password, it will derive the symmetric key from its password and try to decrypt this output. And whenever it is decrypting this output, it will be getting KS, which is the session key, as well as the TGT, that is the ticket granting ticket. Now, the workstation of the Alice is going to destroy the password of the Alice, which is generated, that is symmetric key derived from the Alice password. It is going to destroy from its memory immediately, so that it is going to prevent that if any attacker wants to capture that particular password which is generated by the Alice, it is not going to be seen. So now the Alice is getting the session key KS, but it is not able to open the TGT, because TGT is encrypted. TGT is an encrypted information which contains ID of Alice and the session key. So actually this TGT is meant for the ticket granting server, and ticket granting server will be able to open this TGT because it is having the shared symmetric key by which it is being encrypted. So what will happen in the step number 3? The Alice will send a request for the SGT, that is granting ticket, server granting ticket, to the TGS. And what is this TGS? It will send the output. This Alice will send this output to the TGS. But what this output is, this is not the output. This output has been received by the Alice, but now Alice is creating its own output. And what is that output? First of all, it will take its timestamp at what time it is working, and it is going to encrypt this timestamp with the session key. And where is the session key? Session key Alice has obtained by decrypting this output, and it will be able to get the session key. So with the help of this session key, it is going to encrypt its timestamp so that it will be getting encrypted timestamp. It has received the ticket granting ticket from this place. So ticket granting ticket it includes. And third is the Bob ID. Bob is the ID with which Alice wants to work. Bob is a server with which Alice wants to work. So this encrypted timestamp, this TGT which it has received from the authentication server, as well as the identity of Bob. Why it is necessary to show the identity of Bob? Because Alice wants to work with the Bob server, with the server whose name is Bob. So Until unless this identity is not given, how the TGS will be able to know with which server Alice wants to work. So all these three information are encapsulated in one output, and that output is sent to the in the form of a request. In the form of a request, it is sent to the TGS, and this request is called server granting ticket. So this is the operation which is known as server granting, obtaining a server granting ticket. So whenever the TGS is going to receive all this information, that is encrypted timestamp, TGT, and the Bob identity, what it will do? So TGT is encrypted with the secret key of the ticket granting server. So therefore, TGS will be able to open it. This TGS will be able to open the TGT, and it is also going to give the proof to the TGS that the message indeed has come from A, because why it has come from A? Because the TGT has which is being encrypted along with the KS has been encrypted with the symmetric key which is shared in between the Alice and the authentication server. Now, once TGS is going to satisfy that it has come from the correct valid user, once it is satisfied that the message has come from Alice, the TGS is going to create a session key, and that session key is known as KAB, which will be the session key in between Alice and the Bob, so that Alice can start its communication with the Bob. Now TGS sends this information twice to the Alice in the form that how it is going to be done. TGS first takes the Alice ID and it creates a session key in between Alice and the Bob, and this two information is encrypted with the B's secret key. B's means Bob's secret key. Bob की जो secret key है उससे इसको encrypt कर दिया जाता है. Then again it frames another message in the form of a Bob's identity as well as the same session key, that is KAB, and after concatenating it together, it is going to encrypt this information with the help of the session key which is already having, Alice is having. Now this encrypted information which contains Alice and KAB, and this encrypted information which contains ID of Bob and KAB, it frames the output, and this output is sent to the Alice. Now what happens next? Now the user is going to contact Bob because it has already received a session key, and how it is going to do that. So once the Alice is going to receive this output, since Alice is already having this session key, it is going to decrypt this output, and whenever it is going to decrypt, it will be able to get Bob's ID as well as the session key which is generated by TGS, which has to be taken place in the form of a communication between A and B. But it is not able to decrypt this one, because it is going to decrypt this one, but it is not going to decrypt this one because this is being encrypted by the B secret key. So only B can decrypt it. So this information, once it receives KAB, it will keep it with itself. It again frames a timestamp, encrypts that timestamp with the KAB which it has received, and this encrypted timestamp and this encrypted information, which is containing the ID of Alice and the KAB, this encrypted information frames the output, and this output is sent to the Bob. Now, once it is sent to the Bob, so Bob is going to receive encrypted timestamp as well as the Alice and the KAB. Now, this information, encrypted information, has been encrypted with the Bob secret key. So whenever Bob is going to receive it, it will be using the secret key to open it. And once it is able to open it, it will be getting KAB, which Alice is also having KAB. This will also receive KAB, as well as it will also able to know that the identity of Alice, that so authenticate that Alice has sent this particular message. It means Bob will be able to know that Alice wants to communicate. Alice is already have received its KAB. Now Bob is also received KAB. Now both can do the conversation. But before they go into the conversation, what Bob used to do? What Bob will do? It will, with the help of KAB, it will encrypt its timestamp. Timestamp which is sent by the Alice. First, it will going to add 1 into it, and then with the help of this KAB, it is going to encrypt it. Now, this encrypted timestamp can be opened by the Bob very easily, because whenever Bob has received KAB, it will decrypt the timestamp, so it will be available. So the timestamp which has been received from the Alice, first of all, it is going to add 1 into that, and then again it is going to encrypt with the KAB, and this encrypted timestamp is sent to the Alice. And once, so this is the acknowledgement of the Bob, acknowledgement which is done by the Bob for the receiving of the session key, which is lying in between between A and B. Now, once this encrypted timestamp is being received by Alice, Alice is going to decrypt it, the timestamp, and tries to match with its timestamp and this encrypted timestamp. So this timestamp will be 1 plus with the timestamp which the Alice has sent. Now, so Alice will be able to know that it is communicating to Bob, and now A and B can enter into the job, and they can do whatever they want. Now suppose Alice wants to, after finishing its work with the Bob, Alice wants to go for another services from the different server. So once the communication between Alice and Bob is over, and Alice wants to work with another server, it has not to go to the authentication server again. No, it is not necessary. It has to go to the TGS itself. That once you have given permission and you have generated a session key, that is KAB, which was lying, which was the shared symmetric key, so that A and B can communicate. Now I want to communicate with C. So if you want to communicate with C, it will do the same process whatever it has done, but it has not to go to the authentication server. It has to change this identity, and by Bob identity will be changed, and it will be given to the C's identity. Suppose we want to work with the C server. So the C identity will be there. Then TGS will be generating another session key, which will be KAC, and it will be encrypting with the C's secret key. And then this information will go on. So the single sign-on process means once it is entered, when it is being authenticated by the authentication server, and it wants to take the services of the different servers which are available, it has not to ask again to the authentication server, please give me the permission. It has to ask only to the ticket granting server that right now I want to work with A, right now I want to work with B, now I want to work with X, now I want to work with Y. And so once it is being authenticated by the authentication server, no need to be authenticated again. Again, next time it is required to get the ticket for the next server. So in this way, the Kerberos algorithm used to, the Kerberos protocol used to work.